What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back. Today, we have some roster moves to discuss. So let's get it started. Welcome, everybody, to a video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, man, we are back with some Lions news. Now, this video is going to be short. It's going to be sweet and straight to the point. Why? Because there's just not a lot of roster moves to discuss. May get more this week. We probably will. And now that this is going to be our final preseason game, after this week, it's going to get crazy. All right, we're going to start cutting down. It's not like in the past where there's intervals. It's straight to it. You go from 90 to 53. So it's going to get crazy very, very fast. Today, it's just one signing. Now, you may be thinking, man, why'd you do its own video on this? Like, was this necessary? I didn't think it was. I was just going to talk about this in the live stream, all right? I saw the name. I kind of quickly glanced at it. Okay, we signed a safety. We waived a running back. And I was like, all right, I'll revisit this. We can revisit this in the live stream. I'll check the players out. Then, for whatever reason today, I hop on the Lions X account or Twitter account. And I'm scrolling through just to kind of remember, like, okay, what names did I actually see there? I see Scott Nelson, safety. I'm like, man, why is that like a familiar name? So I go on Google or Safari and I look up Scott Nelson. Turns out he's a safety out of Wisconsin. Oh, snap. I know who this dude is. Why? I know I've talked about him before. It turns out, with a little bit of digging, all right, not that much, just a little bit, we talked about this player back in 2021 when he came in for a visit with the Detroit Lions. Now, he didn't end up with the Lions, of course. He signed as an undrafted free agent to Seattle Seahawks. He's also been with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But we had brought him in for a visit, and I went back and found my reaction because I knew when I saw the name and I saw that he was at Wisconsin, I knew that this was a guy that I was hyped about. I just had that memory. And I was able to pull a clip from that video when we talked about him. Maybe I talked about him more than just that video. But I pulled a clip. And you could just see my excitement for this player. Now, you know, some things were different back then. Okay, it's 2 years ago. All right, things looked a little bit different. My vocabulary actually was probably a little bit better. But things were different then. I mean, the biggest thing is the stash. I mean, let's just be real here. I'm going to show this clip and you're going to be like, dang. Okay, you can really see the growth. I mean, it's like night and day. Well, not really. If it was night and day, you wouldn't see any growth. Look, here's the thing. I'm here to motivate, right? To inspire, right? I think that's one of the responsibilities here, to inspire people. Hey, you know, reach for the stars, man. You know, go after your dreams, chase your dreams. It's all motivation. You're going to see this clip from 2 years ago and be like, dang, look how far he came. It's 2 years, and you can see it. You can see the growth. You know, I went from, you know, people laughing and being like, dang, what is going on right there, to all of a sudden, some dude saying like, hey, man, I like the stash. Bang. So, you know, if you get anything from this video, take that inspiring message. That's 4 years in the making. You guys don't care about this. I had to point it out. But anyways, I'm going to play this clip of my reaction, or not reaction, but talking about this player because it was the first time I had heard of him. And I'm going to play that so you can see the excitement that I had initially, right? So I'm not just making this up like, oh, I like this player. No, I'm going to show you what I thought about this guy. Then I'm going to come back and we'll talk about him a little bit more. Scott Nelson, who has been signed by the Detroit Lions as safety out of Wisconsin. Nelson out of Wisconsin. I don't know who this guy is before I saw this. Scott Nelson needs attention. He's a 6'2", 205-pound safety that we talk about. Dax Hill. You talk about all these safeties, like, oh, they can play slot, things like that. He's another one of those guys. He is a crazy athlete. Listen to this. 4.38 40, 1.48 10-yard split. Seriously, that's insane. 6'2", 3-cone, 39.5-inch vertical, 14 bench press reps. And he plays with tons of energy. He's very excited. Anytime someone makes a play, you see him jumping around. Wow. Athletically, wow. And he played a lot of different roles for that defensively. Legitimately. You can line him up at cornerback. He's even done some slot work. He's lined up one time, sometimes on the outside as a one-on-one cornerback. I've seen that as well when they need it. So he's a highly, just put him anywhere and he can help you. Kind of gives me some Jaquan Brisker vibes in that way, where he's just very smart defensively. A lot of cover 3 work defensively, which I think is something that the Lions, you know, are going to continue to do next year. And it's a lot of the guys that they're interested in do that defensively. A lot of cover 3 work, just like Deshaun Elliott. And what I like is just, he's a very opportunistic safety. He's the kind of guy that's going to give teams problems because he's going to get the occasional interception and occasional pass breakup. Gets on reads quickly using the eyes of the quarterback. Now, he does this while also keeping track of the receiver, which is not an easy trait. Marcus Williams is great at this, not putting him on Marcus Williams' level, but he does that. You look at a guy like Hawkins, I don't think he sees both consistently. This dude does, and he's very jerky with it, where it's like if he sees it, bam, I'm gone. It's just like, okay, he's very good at seeing the route, but also seeing quarterback at the same time, so he has a nice little feel of both. And as a run defender, he attacks backs, shoots lanes. He was a big blitzer for them, so another aggressive guy, not afraid to put his head down and take on blockers. Some inconsistency as a tackler. He can be fooled, especially as a run defender. That's a little hit and miss. Sometimes good, sometimes it's not. But I really like his coverage upside. I really do. And he's got a potential to make a lot of turnovers. So I have him graded as another draftable prospect. So yeah, I mean, he might go undrafted because I've never heard of him, but if he isn't, then we should be interested. All right, so as you can see there, I was pretty excited. Now, yeah, I may be saying things a little bit maybe differently than I do now, and I don't even know where I was at in terms of like watching players. I know I've improved a ton. That doesn't mean it's perfect, but I think I've improved a ton from now to then. I know I've improved a ton just with experience, but I also do need to point out that I think my numbers are a tad off there when you talk about the 40 time. Clearly, some of my times there were unofficial. Now, his relative athletic score, I can throw that on the screen. It's fantastic. He was a freak athlete. For a guy at his size, at that position, to run a 4.49 40-yard dash to 39.5-inch vertical, the 10-yard split was really good. You see the 20-yard shuttle, like his scores are really good. Now the 4.38 I think I said was a little bit off. I don't know where I got that from. I guess it was just an unofficial score. But the reality is he was a great athlete coming out of college, and you can see it when you just start watching the player. Now I won't go back because I want to keep this short and sweet. His Wisconsin games, you're talking about a 4-year player back at Wisconsin that was a playmaker, a versatile playmaker. I won't go back into that though because I think I touched on some of that there in that last clip. Instead, I went back and looked at what he's done in the NFL, statistics specifically to look at for him in the regular season. But you can look at some of the preseason. Now, the issue is you don't get the all-22, and the safety position is pretty reliant on that when you're looking at that spot. So all-22 is pretty necessary, and we don't have that. So there's a lot of things that I know I'm missing here. But from just revisiting the 3 preseason games that you saw him play in 2022 with Seattle, really his career has been signed as an undrafted free agent with Seattle, nearly made the 53-man roster, was cut, ends up on their practice squad, bounces around on and off practice squads with them and the Pittsburgh Steelers, signed a futures contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into the 2023 season after the 2022 season, and now here he is with the Detroit Lions. So he's had value to teams and kind of being like the security blanket on the practice squad. That's not something that should just be overlooked. Those guys become necessary. Just ask Tom Kennedy. He's the easiest example. We've seen that. Practice squad players that become beneficial. Craig Reynolds, like they just do. Like just because you play well in the preseason doesn't mean you're going to get a roster spot. There's only so many, and for a team like Seattle, they were strong at that position. So he didn't get a roster spot, but he was that security blanket for them on the practice squad. And I think really at this point in time, heading into the final week of the preseason, the days that he's going to have, he's probably in a spot where it's more so competing like, hey, can we bring him back through the cuts, right? Can he make it back to our practice squad potentially here and be that kind of piece for us in the back end? We know there's injuries, Savion getting nicked up, in the last game, Iffy and his injury backgrounds. Tracy Walker's had to deal with some injuries. I don't think he'll probably even play this week, so this is more of an opportunity. And then plus on top of that, Brandon Joseph I thought had a strong week. Brady Breeze popped a little bit this past week, so it's going to be a lot of opportunity. There should be opportunity there for him to show what he can do, but it doesn't mean this position is necessarily bad. But, we may be a little bit nicked up there, so it's adding some depth. With that being said, though, just some of my notes from watching just a few of those games, some of the key things that stuck out, right? I'm not doing a full deep dive here because I don't have enough to look at, but just some of the key things that stuck out. Obviously, going back to Wisconsin, they played a lot of single high looks defensively. He signs on with Seattle, which makes sense, to cover 3 team. It just made sense. He's a guy that can play both free safety and strong safety, can roll into the box. You like the size, you like the length, you also like the finishing ability as a tackler. Now, you get some good and bad. I thought you got some kind of ugly taking on blocks at times where he kind of just throw himself into blockers. Other times looked much more clean, setting an edge at the second level. As a tackler, I know there were some questions about consistency back at college, but in the NFL, in that short little span with the Seattle Seahawks, I got to tell you, it looked good as a tackler. You love the range as a tackler, and that can be from a single high position. It can be from a, posted up at a split safety alignment. It can be working down into the box. The ability to close, the range that he has as just a wide radius tackler. Like, this guy has that closing ability, and the thing that I loved the most was the ability to shut down any kind of leakage. Like, there isn't, running backs kind of just falling forward for 4 more yards. He shuts that down. So if you're getting that consistency as an open field tackler, that is a huge benefit. That's one thing that you stands out and you really like about him kind of immediately, is the range, the closing ability, and just the tackling radius that he brings to the table. Then you look at him in coverage, and a big thing for him with so much experience was some of the awareness. Now, that doesn't mean it was always perfect. Sometimes, he would maybe get out of spots, but you did see some awareness there, some real ball skills. Obviously, the athleticism helps a ton. I love it when he steps down underneath. He kind of robs down from a safety alignment. alignment. If you think about back to what we've done so far in the preseason, like last week, a lot of cover one, meaning one safety would come down and match up with a tight end or a back, sometimes even a slot, and the other safety would play as that deep, high alignment. It's going to be a great opportunity for him to do something that he's done a lot of and show that he can hang in those responsibilities. One of the main questions I have is consistently matching up in man coverage, whether that's a tight end or a back, being able to stay matched with a receiver out of breaks, being able to transition fluidly while staying connected. Like, that's a real question that I have. I love his length when it comes to stepping into the box, zone coverage underneath, some of the lateral movement skills. I love him in those spots. The range that he covers, he makes it very difficult. He's just a really big safety that steps down in some of those zone looks. So I have real questions there. You get a lot of off coverage looks, and even at times against tight ends, you'd see them separate a little bit from him. So that's something I'm absolutely going to be watching for, but he's a good athlete. You're not just going to run away from this guy. Most tight ends won't. So you love the size and the physical build of the player. You see some real awareness. I mean, you see it on this play right here. On a 4th and 1, you may want to get aggressive to fill that gap, but he stays under control, takes away the flat route from the running back on this play, and then the quarterback has nowhere to go with the ball. I wonder a little bit about some of the, the twitch in terms of if he's playing a split field kind of look defensively, how well does he play in a half field coverage look, right? What does he look like in those spots versus being a single high safety and being able to utilize that range from sideline to sideline like we saw in the Tracy Walker near interception this past week, and also when he's able to just step down and play coverage. Okay, he seems like he may be a little bit more natural in those looks of either a single high safety or rolling down and being able to run support. Cover 4, cover 6. I mean, obviously with Seattle, a lot of single high safety looks. You talk about Pittsburgh and the versatility they ask of their safeties. Step down, being able to play man coverage, also being able to play a 2-deep look, being able to play as a single high safety. You have to be able to roll into a lot of different alignments. Of course, we got Cam Sutton from there. So you have to be able to show some of that flexibility and versatility. That's going to be a key. He has the build to do it, but what does it really look like when he's out there? Things for him could absolutely be a special teams role as well. I mean, he didn't do a ton of special teams back in college, but we've seen it. We've seen him play the gunner position. I think kick coverage is a spot that would make a ton of sense for him based on his skill set, the way that he plays the game. I think he could have a lot of success there. I'm sure he'll get some snaps there. He got some with Seattle as well. From a statistical standpoint, I don't have a ton to really point to here, but PFF graded him out in his preseason with a 76 grade, one of the highest graded defenders for Seattle, and on 44 coverage snaps, they said he only allowed 1 reception. And you see the aggressiveness when he jumps and bites downhill. One of the things that I know I like from off coverage, remember back watching him, was the ability to play with eye discipline, being able to stay connected at the top of a route, right? Not getting caught on his heels or in a position where he can't drive on a pass and drive down on a route. He's able to break a route, utilize that length, get his hands in there. But yeah, the biggest thing I want to see is him match up one-on-one. I want to see what that coverage looks like when he gets one-on-one, and I want to see, with a guy at his skill set, what he would look like as a single high, right? Is he too steep with his angles? What do his angles look like? I think there could be legitimate questions there about his angles, but I'll tell you what, he finds the football, man, and he's always around the football, and he loves to tackle. So I think there's a real special teams benefit potentially here from this player. So I just had to do a little video to talk about him just a little bit. Obviously, it's not a super deep dive. There's also not a ton of NFL to look at here, and I'm not going back to his college right now for this video. We can always revisit this, especially if he pops, but the reality is we're going to get to see him in this 3rd preseason game. We should, and because of that, we'll get a better sense of what he's going to bring to the table. But I'll tell you what, I was fired up then, and I'm fired up now. Now, the other side of this news is that because of this, the Detroit Lions had waived injured running back Mohamed Ibrahim. Now, this was really one of the more sad things that you see. I mean, it's just a sad part of sports in general, but Mohamed Ibrahim getting injured in that first preseason game, and the way that he tried to fight it, stay on the field, he was like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to keep fighting, because you understand the reality, right? Craig Reynolds is not here. Jamar Jefferson's not here. This is an opportunity for me, and he had that, and he popped in the last training camp day that I was there before the preseason game, and it was like, okay, look, they're kind of, he's finding his little niche that he can utilize, right? Get downhill. He's finding some success, and to see him get kind of banged up and injured and still fighting to try to stay on the field, I full 100% respect to that man. Like absolutely, you appreciate those guys, man, and just the toughness for them, and you hate it for them. You really do, especially for those bubble players where it's just like, hey man, nothing's guaranteed there. So I'm truly wishing the best here for Mohamed Ibrahim. I feel terrible for the situation that took place there, and I feel terrible for him that this is the case. Now, with the Lions running back position right now, getting Craig back, obviously having Benny Snell in there, getting Jefferson back, who I thought looked good this past week, and then of course even Ozigbo, who we didn't really see, is still here. So the Lions have the running back depth, right? And you're probably competing competing for running back 4, even if they keep running back 4. I mean, that's still the question. That's still up in the air. But this is just really sad, I think, for Mohamed Ibrahim, and I really do hate it for him, and I'm wishing him the best and that he's able to land back on his feet and make this thing work. But for now, he has been waived injured, and I don't know, maybe they come to an injury settlement. I don't know how serious it is, so hopefully it's not super serious and it's something that he's going to get another opportunity with someone, maybe that's us or someone else. But regardless, that's the roster moves, and I wanted to touch on that. I'm going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you, Pat, for watching, and I'm out.